What's going on there, folks? Good morning, good afternoon out there. It is the Earthmaster back here on this Sunday, January 22nd already, 2023. It is about 12:10 p.m. here along the West Coast, and still have some activity out here along the West Coast here in California. 1.1 latest earthquake, but also overnight, still seeing a line of activity up against the plate boundary here. Let's go ahead and check out the movement here. There is that activity right up against the San Andreas Fault. I'm still kind of expecting possibly something larger here to kick off here very soon. There's just been too much activity up and down the plate boundary itself with certain swarms in certain areas. So we're kind of watching here for potential movement. Up here in Northern California, we did see some further activity this morning time period with a 2.8 down here off the coast of Northern California, right about the right around the Mendocino Triple Point Junction here. You kind of got the plate boundary of the the North American plate here to the northeast and east, and the Pacific plate down here south of this red line, the plate boundary, and also the Gorda plate sits up here to the north, or as most people call it, the Juan de Fuca plate. Either way, kind of a triple point junction area, and that's kind of where that 2.8 struck this morning at about 8.9 kilometers deep. So activity still kind of stretching down from about the southern end of the Cascadia all the way down through the San Andreas Fault plate boundary. Now, we haven't really seen any major swarms around here, down here on this segment of the San Andreas Fault. But other fault systems prior to that are showing uptick, including some movement around the San Jacinto fault zone, and also a little bit of activity here around Los Angeles. Looks like they've seen a 2.3 yesterday and also 1.1 near the Sherman Oaks area. A couple different fault segments down there that's buried underneath the concrete jungle of LA. Also a little bit of activity along the creeping segment as well. Now, movement around the Bay Area where we were watching our swarm here over the last week. Seen a couple more earthquakes overnight, 2.1 and a 2.4. So total tally of those quakes in this area, specifically this area near the Portola Valley, looks like about 19 earthquakes so far. And it was coming in pretty nicely a couple days ago in a pretty strong swarm fashion. Now, so far we've seen 2.9s being the largest magnitude in this cluster of earthquake activity, which sits right smack dab on the peninsula section of the San Andreas Fault, which runs up here through San Francisco. All right, rest of the area, some movement throughout Nevada, and Ridgecrest area down here north of the Garlock Fault shear zone, showing some activity as well. Nothing up here into the Pacific Northwest. It is a weekend. USGS really not reporting anything unless it's above the 2.5 threshold. Same for Yellowstone National Park. I just checked that out. There's not a whole lot going on there, but just for fun, we'll check out the seismographs. Not a whole lot of swarming over here around the northwest corner of the park. Over here around Borehole, which is around the Lake Yellowstone area. Looks like there's a little bit of small earthquake activity potentially. And then sometimes we can see these ice quakes that tend to build up and give a signal very similar to what we're seeing here on the seismograph. So uncertain on if those are earthquakes or just individual ice quakes there around that station. I'm not seeing that activity show up around the other seismograph stations, so that would probably be some ice quakes there picking up on the seismograms. All right, let's see what else we have. Texas, Oklahoma, nothing new overnight. We did have one earthquake here around the New Madrid zone just after midnight. It's got it positioned southeast Missouri. I don't even know if it's in the state of Missouri. Yeah. Looks like 6.8 kilometers deep for this 2.6, which is right smack dab on the New Madrid seismic zone. Yeah, right within that fracture area, or the fault area, I should say. But that's about it. You know, sometimes we do get some earthquakes out there, some smaller ones, and let's look at the last 30 days of activity here for this region. Shows about 33. That's about typical what we see in a month time frame. Nothing big, but all this smaller activity just confirms that this fault system is still alive and still building up strain here for the potentially the next large earthquake in this region. 2.6 looks to be the largest magnitude so far over the last 30 days. Eastern portion of the country fairly quiet, not seeing too much activity out east, and the Puerto Rico Trench region seeing a little bit further activity overnight, it looks like, and early this morning, including a 2.8, a little bit closer up here around the Puerto Rico Trench, and some further deeper earthquake activity just south here with a couple mid-threes. So activity still increasing in this region. Maybe want to watch this here, considering well, the activity we seen a couple days ago with that 6-pointer down south here. That was a 6.2, 166 kilometers deep. So looks like movement continuing to build up in this area of Puerto Rico. The Atlantic Ocean was fairly active yesterday and the day before. We did see, of course, 5.3 late last night. Haven't seen any further activity here this morning or afternoon time period. And way down south here into the southern mid-Atlantic ridge, at 4.9 from yesterday as well. Nothing new popping up here. Over around the Mediterranean area, 4.6 in Greece last night. Nothing really showing up here this morning so far, but let's go ahead and check out some activity here around the map. And it looks like it's calmed down quite nicely. Only a handful of smaller quakes, and these look a little bit on the older side, hence the somewhat reddish rings here. Of course, the darker color rings are going to indicate the most oldest earthquakes. And still lacking activity across this area of the Himalayas down into portions of the northern end of the Java Trench. All very quiet still. I did have one 3.7 way up north into, I believe that's China area. Let me double check, make sure this is being reported by 35 kilometers west-southwest of India for a 4.1. Let me check here real quick. It's not being listed up here on the map, which I find rather odd, but it is on the globe. Now that's a little on the strange side here. Let me see. Oh, this is from this is actually from a couple days ago is what it's showing. For some reason it must have, you guys see that? When I go to click on the 3.7, it brings up, oh, there we go. That was weird. That was completely weird. I just seen an earthquake down here, and now it's gone. Oh man, another day of strange electrical interference here. Maybe there's a presence around me. Not for sure what's going on with that. I don't think I'm losing my mind. I think you guys seen that too. 3.7 looks like in China area coming in this morning. 1 kilometer deep. So it's kind of within our zone up here, but it's way off the plate boundary. But then again, this is a major subduction zone level. A lot of other areas here to the north that have been built up over time. A lot of pressure up here throughout the a long time ago. It's taken a while for these mountains to build up and produce these elevations out here. A lot of stress built up here in this area, and I think that's still continuing. We're lacking that activity throughout this region as far as earthquake activity goes and presence goes. For earthquakes, it's just been very, very quiet. But a 3.7 is kind of north up there right now. But we'll continue to watch this area. Maybe, just maybe, I don't know. I'm still not 100% normal right now. Picked up a fever yesterday and trying to keep that at bay today. But maybe that earthquake I was suspecting here was actually this one way down south, 4.2. Possibly. I believe it was. All right, let's see. Over here around the Indonesia area, Philippines region, still seeing some activity. A lot of older rings here. Let's see what we got here for movement. Largest magnitude, go over here to the newest. And definitely still seeing some aftershock activity following the 7-pointer. Wasn't it a 7-pointer? That struck over here. Let me see here. 7.0, that's right. Just a few days ago, you're still seeing some aftershock activity in this region. It's going to be the oranger quakes here. Orange circles, I should say. Some 4s out there overnight and this morning time period. And also down south here across Indonesia and Papua New Guinea starting to backfill with some activity as well. We should see, depending on if we can get an advancement here of that westward pressure gradient, plate activity and pressure transfer, we should see it, like I say, unless we see it, we should see things really ramp up around the Solomon Islands and possibly some renewed activity across the Tonga and Fiji area. There was a 5.0 yesterday, but no newer activity showing up here on the USGS map. Although I do see a 4.7 there. That's 4.7, 400 kilometers deep. That's kind of why I like to use that globe so we can see what's going on out there, even with different agencies, because that's definitely within USGS's range of putting an earthquake out there. 4.7 should have been listed up here on the map, but it's not for whatever reason. And that earthquake came in, looks like a couple hours ago, at least an hour and a half ago. Either way, EMSC reporting that, I believe, along with some further activity down south into the, it looks like just off North Island, New Zealand, with that 3.1 coming in. Let's check out the GeoNet servers here real quick and see what we have going on here today, folks. Weak earthquake, 3.2. Let's bring up the all magnitudes here. There's that 3.0 about 45 minutes ago. 3.4, about 33 kilometers deep. Nothing major going on here. No unusual deep activity or swarms. Looks like just a little bit of activity throughout the region there. Check out the volcano drums, and there's not a whole lot to report. No major swarms. Taupo supervolcano has definitely calmed down here. About a month or so ago, we had a pretty good swarm of activity across that supervolcano, but it's done for now. Very quiet on the seismograph station there. Tremor last night along the Northern California area, 230 epicenters of tremor. That's been a consistent little area that's been seeing increasing tremor activity. Now, of course, when we see tremor, that does add further strain up to the surface regions because we're getting that subduction taking place there. We're getting that Juan de Fuca plate. You know, this whole plate here kind of makes up the Cascadia subduction zone. This whole plate is being shoved underneath the North American plate here. You can see the Cascadia megathrust area sits on this darker line, and the stressed area tends to be within this range right about here, where all that energy is building up and where the land is kind of uplifting. And we do get uplift over here as well, but the main brunt of the energy built up is right just offshore into a pretty good patch. And so when we get that tremor activity taking place further east, and on this map further east would mean more further downstream, down dip, about 45 kilometers deep, that ultimately applies further strain upstream and winding that that spring, so to speak, of energy for the next megaquake. But also at the same time, we see some earthquakes building up further upstream and potentially regionally, like we're seeing here along the Gorda Escarpment and areas just to the west of where all that tremor activity is occurring. You guys can see it right here. So, you know, it's definitely building up. We're getting that strain building up for the mega quake one day. But just for the time being, we're seeing little microquakes popping off here in Northern California and just offshore. Alaska region, a little bit of activity up here along the plate boundary near Mount Fairweather. 30 kilometers, no, 3.0 for 10 kilometer deep earthquake there. The Alaska region, one earthquake way up here. Kind of look for these oddball ones. 2.4 coming in. Up into the beautiful state of Alaska. I'll be back up there again. I want to take Missy Mimi's up there and let her see the beautiful area that Alaska has. I went up there in the middle of December. I know I like the cold. I told you guys I love the cold, and it was absolutely beautiful. A couple years, I was trying to think when I went back up there, 2017. It's been a few years, and I want to get back up there. It's absolutely stunning. But I wanted to see what it was like, you know, with it being the majority of darkness throughout the day and night. But I want to see what it's like in the daytime or in the summertime when you got the peak hours, the peak sunlight, the midnight sun. I think I'll go back up there with Missy Mimi's and check that out here soon. But absolutely beautiful. I'm a nature type of guy. I love the outdoors. I'm not one to sit inside all day and watch TV. I can't do that. Don't get me wrong. There's a couple of shows I do enjoy. Missy Mimi's got me kind of hooked on them. Or I'm definitely watching YouTube videos, but not one to sit in the recliner all day. I just can't do that. Too old for that. Start feeling my bones getting you know, a little achy. 4.5 in the Philippines area, it looks like. That one coming in yesterday. But look over here. Western Pacific, awfully quiet still. But we're already seeing what I spoke about down here. Some deeper movement, earthquake activity down in New Zealand. It looks like this has come to a halt prior now just to the Java Trench. So again, with this being said, we need to watch these areas around Solomon Islands, Vanuatu, and the Fiji area for backfilling and further activity with that westward plate movement here. This should be filling in here by tonight. We'll see how that comes out with the update later on. The big island of Hawaii, Pahala, the hot spot today. Well, underneath Pahala, about 34 kilometers underneath there. Still a little uncertainty as to what, you know, the main reason for this ongoing swarm over the past, I guess it's been ongoing for quite a while. I heard somewhere around the late 60s. But there's definitely something going on down there way below the surface. Of course, you got Loihi Seamount just offshore, and then, you know, eventually these will build up into some beautiful, nice islands for the generations in the next hundreds of thousands of years. I doubt if we'll make it that long, but all right, let's see what else we got here. I think that's about it for earthquake activity. We checked out Yellowstone, checked out Tremor. Now volcanoes into the Cascades are all relatively quiet. I did check out the Mount St. Helens graph here this morning, but we will show you guys here that things are calm, steady as she goes. Maybe one earthquake. You guys can see this, right? Very thin earthquake. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of snow up there around Mount St. Helens as well. I don't know. Maybe we can get some ice quakes around that area as well. It's a very thin spike of a signature right here, that blue one, and a couple other smaller ones. But wind event, it looks like up here. It does not look like earthquake activity or volcanic activity. But for the most part, that's been the ongoing deal over the last couple days. A couple very, very small. Again, these could be ice quakes. But that's about it. No, really no earthquake activity to chat about here across the Mount St. Helens area. And Mount Rainier, go ahead and check this area out as well. Looks like are we missing a seismograph station there? I thought there was one up there. Oh, windy day. Windy day here in Northern California. Got a dry north wind coming in and warming up. Kind of weird, right? Most people think a north wind, that means some cold temperatures. But here in the Sacramento Valley, we get downslope north winds, which kind of warms us up a little bit and dries us out. Okay, earthquake activity, very quiet up here around Mount Rainier as well. So very small earthquakes listed up on that map. On that graph, I should say. And about the same for yesterday. Here it looks like some very small quakes. Again, those could be ice quakes. Space weather activity. Well, these guys have let us down. These massive sunspots here, they are just about to depart along the western limb here of the sun, and they will be gone before we know it. And watch. How much you want to bet that these things, well, I don't know if these things are going to start getting more complex or not once they're out of view, but I wouldn't be surprised. It seems to happen that way. These sunspots could be facing us for a few days, directly facing Earth, looking massive and, you know, promising, and then nothing. They just kind of sit there and wait until they get out of view here, and then they start acting up and producing flares. But I don't know. It seems a little odd. You know, it's again, I think it's that observer effect. When you're watching something, it doesn't behave normally. So maybe I'll skip out on space weather activity and see what happens. But for now, once that's gone, we got a couple regional sunspots up here on the northern hemisphere and northeastern area of the sun. I don't see anything that's promising and producing any major flares, to be honest. There's still a 10% chance of an X flare. I don't know if that's correct or not. I think that's a little bit elevated. M flare, 55% chance. C flare, 99% chance here. And looking at the X-ray flux chart, looks like we did have a little M flare earlier this morning time period, M1.6. But for the most part, things have mellowed back down into the C flare category. Maybe another M flare right here. It looks like M1.5. But either way, nothing major happening here. On the sun currently, we do have a coronal hole. It looks like 69 is the number up here. Now, I'm not for sure if that's going to be geo-effective or not. It had been facing us a little bit, but it's just a tiny coronal hole, and that may provide a little bit of unsettled conditions here in a couple days once it arrives, if it arrives here to this planet, which would be shown up here on the graph, the 3-day geomagnetic forecast. But right now, things look green across the board with only minimal chances for the auroras at the higher latitudes. But man, that's about it. I was really looking forward to these sunspots when they were coming around this edge, and they looked massive, and then they just started to decay, and to where they're at right now. And they're we'll watch it and see how it goes. But it's if anything does blast off from here, it's not going to be geo-effective due to the current position, and of course, it will be way further over here over the next day. All right, now weather activity. I do like to cover weather activity on occasion here. We try to keep it towards the end. Looks like, man, look at Texas. Look around the, this is on Tuesday 18Z, so this is going to be Monday night into Tuesday. Into Wednesday as well. Really strong system coming in here, it looks like. Severe weather threat potentially for Texas. A lot of rainfall in there as well. I know Texas does need some rain. Portions of the southern plains dealing with some drought. I think they're even in more of a drought than California is now. We got a lot of rainfall so far this year here in California. But southeast there, Louisiana, Arkansas, eastern Texas, portions of Oklahoma. Looks like they're going to get some snow up here. But a severe weather event possible there on Tuesday and Wednesday. Let me bring up the stand by for a second here. Storm Prediction Center. I thought I had them listed up here, but maybe not. Storm Prediction Center. So it looks like here's day 3, which is going to be around the Wednesday time period. For the most part, looks like the severe weather threat will be down Louisiana, Alabama area, with a marginal risk for severe weather over here in Texas. Now, let me zoom this up a little bit here. Now, on the forecast model here, this is definitely impressive rainfall rates, but it doesn't look like it's going to be any severe threat until Wednesday time period, when that low pressure kind of pulls up this moisture into possibly just a correct position here to produce maybe some supercells and slight tornado risk possibly. Severe weather, 25 miles of a point. So we'll see how this, this may change. It looks somewhat promising there for, I shouldn't say that, but, it looks possible for some severe weather on that day. I know those guys are getting into the scary time of the year here in the springtime when things could get pretty bad in the weather department. Again, best to be prepared if you live out there. Just like in California here, you got to prepare for earthquakes, and we had flooding this year. I kind of live right almost close to the Sacramento River here in Northern California, and that got quite high, pretty high out here. So best thing to do is be prepared, for any type of natural disaster. All right, so I wanted to go back here to the West Coast and see what we got coming up here for any more rainfall. It looks clear up until about the Tuesday, or well, that's going to be Sunday into Monday. It looks like Southern California may get a little bit of rain. These models here have been very inconsistent, and last night when I checked it, this system here around the 3rd or 4th of February was much further up north. Now, if this holds true, Southern California will get much more rainfall than us up here in Northern Cal. But behind that, it looks like starting to see that storm door possibly open for at least a couple more systems coming in here to the West Coast. But again, that's way out there. These things are definitely subject to change, but an overall pattern shift appears to be likely around the first week of February. Again, we'll check back on that and see how that plays out. Alrighty, folks. I think that's about it. We'll be chatting at you guys a little bit later tonight. Got a few things I got to do on this fine Sunday. I don't know if I'm going to venture outside because I'm not a big fan of the wind right now. Still trying to just feel a little bit better. I feel fine now, but I gotta keep this fever under control. 5.1. See, I'm just right in that zone I was just chatting about here, how we're going to be backfilling earthquake activity. It's already happening even before I finish this update. So you can already see where the halting has come. Over the past couple days, past few days, it's halted right about here. But now, looking at the map, right there at the Java Trench, eastward, is where that activity has just come to a halt and building up. And now, with the older color rings up here, indicating older movement from yesterday, that would make sense for the backfilling to get in process here. 5.1. That how deep is that? Not too deep. A little deep though. 131 kilometers deep. Either way, I definitely think it's noteworthy to watch this area, as we should see things again fill in, and Should see some deeper activity as well here around Fiji. That already happened, it looked like, with that 4.7, but could be some more. Either way, we'll keep an eye on this area today and see how it plays out, but it's already filling in. We'll catch you guys a little bit later on tonight with the update video. Till then, stay safe, take care, and of course, always be aware of what's going on around you. We'll chat at you guys a little bit later tonight. Have a good one.